Hello guys, in this video we'll learn Dioxys advanced concept for cross-platform development using Rust. In a previous video we discussed about Dioxys basic concept for cross-platform development using Rust. We discussed about RSX, components, props, event handlers, hooks, user input. So if you haven't watched that video, it should be popping somewhere on right top. Just click it, watch it before moving on to this video. And before we start, there is a link to my Discord in description. Make sure to join. I'll be posting a lot of books, articles, papers, and we can have a lot of discussions around not just Rust, but engineering and life in general. So make sure to join. In this video, we'll be discussing about context, sharing state among multiple components, dynamic rendering, routing when we have more than one page in our application, and assets, how we can access images in our code. So first of all, open the Project Explorer and make sure you're in a nice and clean project. Open the terminal. We'll be using Dioxys CLI, which I covered in the basic concept video. So if you haven't watched that video, first watch that video, understand how can we use Dioxys CLI, how can we install it. So we'll be using again Dioxys new command. So let's do dx new, and we'll be using web template, project name as advanced concepts. And for now, let's use vanilla CSS. Router will add by ourselves, so let's set it to false. And as you can see, we have our directory ready. Now, first of all, move to main.rs. Here we'll remove the default component, which comes with the project template. And for testing in this video, we'll be using embedded browser. So let's begin. First of all, we'll be discussing context or sharing state. Now there are multiple ways to share state among components. One of those ways is lifting state, which is defining your state in a parent component and pass it along the child component, and then child can just modify the state and another component can render it or use it as well. So basically, multiple components can simultaneously access the state. But in this case, you have to define your state in the parent component. We'll first implement that and then we'll see what are the challenges there, and then we'll move to another approach where you can share the state in a proper way by using the sharing state concept. So first of all, let's use the lifting state concept. So let's say we have an example of thumbnail editor. So we'll just say thumbnail editor. Now here we return an element and we define a state. So let's say title, use signal, and we'll just say string from, and let's say Rust 101. Now we have an RSX, and here we have a div, let's say, and we have a h1 tag where we just say thumbnail editor. Now let's add a couple of child components. So one of them is basically thumbnail, where we pass the title and return an element, and here we'll add the component macro. So again, RSX div h1, and here we can say this is a thumbnail, so this is thumbnail, and then in p tag we'll add our title. So this is just a basic component to display our thumbnail title. And then we have another one, which is title editor. So here we pass title as string, and on input event handler form event, and then we return element. So on top again, component RSX macro and input component. So initial value, or the value, will set to title, and on input we'll just move event, and we'll just do on input dot trigger the event. So on input dot call and pass the event. So this is our title editor, which displays whatever the title is. And in case of any changes in the title, basically it's an input box. So in case of any changes in the title, it calls the event which is passed from the parent, which will pass in a minute. And this one is just a thumbnail component, which basically just displays your thumbnail. And then we have a thumbnail editor. So what else your thumbnail editor does is it has a thumbnail component which needs title, and then it has a title editor component which needs title, and on input move event. And so we just modify the state here by doing title dot set and whatever the event value is. So again, just to recap, this is our parent component which will be launching. So launch, and this is the parent component basically, and then it has multiple child component. One is thumbnail, which is this one. Another one is title editor, which is this one. So whatever the title is edited, it's displayed in thumbnail, and title editor job is to edit the title. But as you can see, the state is defined in parent and passed along to the child. So let's run this and see how it works. So we go to our terminal, move to our project, advanced, and we'll just do dxserve. Okay, build is done, our app is up and running. So let's minimize the terminal, and an embedded browser will just do localhost 8080. Okay, here you go. As you guys can see, we have thumbnail editor, and after that we have another h1 tag which says thumbnail, and then thumbnail is printed, which is the p tag Rust 101. And then we have our input box, which is this one. So let's say if I start typing here state of Rust 101, I remove, and as you can see the change occurs, and then I change into new title or cross platform development. So basically the state that is defined in parent is shared among the components, and as soon as there is a change, the components are re-rendered with the whatever the value is. So this is basically one way, which is known as lifting state. Now this solution is manageable when you are sharing state among just two components or a handful of components. But if you have to pass state all the way down in your tree, like it's not just one level hierarchy, it's multi-level hierarchy, that's where the problem begins. It will be very complex. Your component will be very difficult to troubleshoot or debug, because if there is any bug in the UI, it will be very difficult to track that from where is this bug coming up, because there are multiple components where the same state is shared from parent and it's far down in your tree. So you have to literally check each and every component where the state is passed to understand the problem. So this is one of those problems, but again, it's not an approach that we are ruling out. We'll also be using in multiple projects going forward. It's a very useful approach. So make sure you follow this as I implement. And now let's move to another approach where we share the state. Now let's look at the second approach, which is more cleaner and easier to maintain and most useful. So first of all, we'll add a struct and we'll call it thumbnail info and set the title as string and derive clone. So this is what we'll add in our context, and we don't need to pass it along. So let's see how can we do. First of all, in the thumbnail editor, we'll use context provider and signal new, and here we'll add our thumbnail with default value. So title string from and set it to, let's say, Rust 101. So this is our initial thumbnail info, and then we'll remove title from here. We'll not pass titles to these, and same here. So as you can see, the call looks already very clean. Now let's move to title. We'll remove this and access using the context. So we'll just say use context, and here we'll say signal thumbnail info, and to access our title, we'll just do context title. As you can see, it's accessible. So what we'll do is, instead of title, we'll just change it to context title. Again, as you can see, that component that renders it is also clean. Now in the first approach, if you remember, we were passing along. So let's say if there are n number of such things that we have to pass to thumbnail, we have to add every single arguments, which is kind of making it very messy. Now here in the thumbnail editor, again, just have to remove all of this and use this, and to show, we'll just use the same approach. And here, since we want to modify, so we'll make it mutable, and instead of calling, we'll just say context dot write and title, and set the title to whatever is event dot value. So this is how simple and clean this solution is. You can see this is basically sharing the state. That was basically drilling the state all the way down to your components, and this is literally just sharing the state. So more cleaner. Now let's run this. So actually we have reloading going on, so it's already up and running. Okay, so Rust 101, and I change it to anything. As you can see, the change is reflected. Context provider solution. So this is how cleaner this is to share the state. Now again, this approach is very useful. We'll be using in our projects a lot, so make sure you grasp it very nicely. Now let's move to the second concept, which is dynamic rendering. So let's close this, and we'll just remove most of this, and let's get on with dynamic rendering. In dynamic rendering, basically sometimes on our UI, we want to render some components based on certain conditions, which could be dependent on state or props. So let's see how can we add those conditions and make a conditional rendering or dynamic rendering. So we'll just add app element, and here just launch app. So what we'll do is, let's say we rely on state, so we'll say is logged in, and use signal, or let's say initially we set it to false, and rsx, then button. So we have a button component, and we add on click, and here what we'll do is basically is logged in dot set not is logged in. So when it's set, we unset it. When it's unset, we set it. So is logged in, and if it's true, the button text would be log out, let's say. If it's not login, then the button text is login. So that's a very basic stuff that we have here in our app. We have button component, and we have some conditional logic based on button text, but we can have conditional logic on component level as well. Now let's run this and test. Actually, it's up and running already. Embedded browser, localhost 8080. Okay, as you can see, we have login button. As soon as we click it, it turns to logout. As soon as I click again, login, logout. So that's how conditional rendering works. We can have conditions in a component and on the level where we can have separate buttons as well. So you can try it on your site and let me know if you have any queries. Now let's move to routing. Mostly all the websites that we browse throughout the day, be it any e-commerce website, an OTA, or a social media, all have multi pages like a home page, contact us, support page, maybe careers page, or any other page that you can think of. And those are basically the scenes which are controlled through route. So you press slash home, you are routed to home page or the index page. So let's see how can we add route for our cross-platform application using Rust. So first of all, move to the Project Explorer here in the Cargo Terminal file. In the features of Diaxys, add router. And once your dependency is added, move to manrs, and here we'll add an enum. And on top, we'll derive routable, which is from the router feature that we just had, partial EQ, and clone. Then we'll add our routes. So let's say route is slash, and that is basically a home route, which we'll add in a minute. And then similarly, let's say we have another route which is slash contact us, and that is basically contact us. Now let's add these. So we'll just say fn home, and it returns an element rsx, and here we just print home page. Similarly, we have a contact us page. So rsx contact us page. So just two page for now, contact us and home page. And then in main, we'll just do launch and rsx. And here we'll just do router route, and actually the curly brackets, yes. So this is how we launch a router application, and these are our routes, and then we have a home page, and then we have a contact us page. So if you have hot reloading on, the website should be up and running. And we go to localhost 8080. As you can see, it prints home page, and then we go to contact us, it prints contact us page, home page, and so basically no page. We don't have any handling for any unknown page. As you can see, it doesn't print anything. This is our home page, and similarly contact us page. Now let's learn how can we even navigate between the pages. So let's say we are on contact us page and we want to add navigation to home page. So we'll just say link and to, and here we'll add route home and go to home page. So we'll make this change, and as you can see, we have go to home page. We click this, there you go, we are on the home page. Go to contact us page, and there is go to home page, as you can see. So we just click this and it goes to the home page. So this is how we can add routing to our cross-platform application using Diaxys. And the last one for today is assets. Assets are files that are included in the final build of the application. They can be images, fonts, style sheet, or any other file that is not part of the source files. So let's see how can we refer to those images, where can we add, and how can they be included in the final build. So first of all, move to the Project Explorer, and here in the assets folder, not under the distribution, just close it, not under dist, but under the assets folder, add any of the images or CSS or any such file that you want to be included in the final build. So for me, I just added this pika.png. As you can see, it's a pika. So let's use it in our code, and let's see how can it be included in assets. As you can see, it's automatically added in our pika.png because we are having a hot reloading, and it's also watching on the assets. So as soon as we added the asset here, it's automatically hot reloaded and included in our distributed assets. So let's move to main, and here we'll just add a app that returns element and rsx image and src, and here we will just refer to our image. So let's say pika.png, and we'll just launch our app. And once the hot reloading is completed, we'll just open our browser, and as you can see, there is our pika image. We are not using any styling for now, so it just went and rendered whole the image, but as you guys can clearly see, the image is rendered. Similarly, if we change it to another default image which is there, header svg, so we can just do header and svg. There you go, we have our header now. So this is how you can refer to your assets in your code and add in your final build. So that's it for assets, and that's also it for the Dioxys advanced concepts using cross-platform development using Rust. And if you have any queries, feel free to drop in the comments. We have covered majorly all the basic and advanced concept in these couple of videos. In the future video, we'll be looking towards the async concepts of cross-platform development using Rust and different other concepts. And if you have any queries, you can also join our Discord and discuss with the community. So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye bye.